Hello, and welcome to Hitchhiker's Guide to Humanity. Today we're talking about dreams. Yes, my beautiful fam, we're going into the dreamscape. So let's go over some core dream symbols. All, by the way, I have experienced and more, but we'll just stick to the basics today. So first we'll talk about tornadoes. Tornadoes are very common. They represent chaos, right? We're going through this chaotic moment in our life. Sometimes you're in the tornado, sometimes you're watching it, sometimes you're seeing things like get swept up into it. What this can often mean is a type of emotional chaos, yes, but also an upheaval of your soul, some type of spiritual initiation. There's a lot that could be going on with tornadoes. Bathrooms. Okay, bathrooms. This one, even the toilet, these are like emotional releases, vulnerability, boundaries. Oftentimes, your dreams will show you something really gross. We won't go into it, but something really gross so that you remember. So you remember it and you wake up and you go, oh, that was really gross. And be like, oh yeah, that was my emotional release. Doors are often about transitions, maybe access to something you're trying to block. Privacy is a big one. Animals, especially cats, represent intuition, self-trust, definitely divine feminine, and this protection of your soul. They'll show up even just like small players in the background, or sometimes they will be there with you. I had a dream recently about my beloved Jackson Gray, who passed in January. He was shivering outside in the cold, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I grabbed him and I went and gave him a warm bath, and I was like, what the hell does this mean? And in my dreams, I am doing soul work in the astral realm. So what that means is I am working to get rid of like wounds, ancestral wounds for me and for the collective that I represent. And so I'm doing weird things, it seems, in my dreams, but in real life, this will manifest as a change, a transformation in some way. Like you're leaving something behind and transitioning to something new. And so cats for me is a big one. I have a cat as a spirit guide. She's blue and Egyptian. I believe it's Sekhmet. Yeah. Okay. And then houses and rooms, they represent like psyche, identity, parts of yourself. Hotels. I have so many dreams about hotels. That's kind of like a liminal space between the astral and regular realm, 3D realm, I guess. And a lot of times I'm in malls too. So hotels, malls, those are kind of like waiting rooms for the astral realm. Okay, let's talk about cars. Cars that are being driven, or maybe they're out of control. Those kind of represent some type of old timeline that you've been navigating, and how if you're in the driver's seat, that's you navigating whatever that timeline is. If you're watching it or you're in the passenger seat, then something else is navigating that timeline. And again, these are just my observations. Everything is open to interpretation, of course. Planes can represent moving from one timeline to another, like jumping. If they're followed by a crash, that can be some type of upgrade, but it hasn't been stabilized yet or grounded. Whenever you have your high school friends, or even just people you don't know from high school, like I have had, I don't know how many dreams I've had where it's these people from high school I barely talk to. When we dream about high school, or even just people, friends that are in your past, a lot of times it is about old archetypes, old timelines, old you, and you're showing up as new you. So it's there to mirror you and show you that you've grown. It's there to show you that you don't belong in those areas anymore, especially if you're missing clothing, like shoes or something, like, or if someone else has your shoes or someone else has your clothes or something like that, or you have to grab something and leave in some way. That is you outgrowing an old timeline. Here's a couple quick ones. Often money, if you have cash, checks, anything that shows up as money, that's actually energy. It represents energy. And like something like a check, if you even know what that is, if you're listening and know what that is, that's like old karmic systems, maybe a contract that is old. So if you need to pee, this one happens a lot too. It's you needing emotional release. This goes along with like the bathrooms and the toilets. If you have to pee and you can't find a place, you're needing to emotionally release something in your life, in your waking life, right? And people walking in on you in like a vulnerable position in a dream, that's like a lack of energetic boundaries or being interrupted while you're healing. If there's an argument that's happening, that could be conflict energy, maybe something modeled in earlier relationships. Okay, now famous people. So I had a dream one time about Boy George. And if you don't know who he is, he's from the 80s and he represents like the archetype of unapologetic self-expression, like radical authenticity, because he just didn't care what people think. He was himself, and that's what you get, right? And so in this dream, his presence could have signaled like a need to embrace someone like that, someone who is radically authentic, someone who is honest about her emotions, to unmask something. So when you're trying to analyze like famous people showing up, think about their archetypes. Think about who they are or who their perceived personality is that is shown to the world. And that really helps with the message that you're trying to get. Okay, let's talk about exes. So any type of ex that shows up, they're really showing up as a placeholder for something in your life, something that you're healing. Now, it could be related to whoever that ex represented, like their archetype in your life, or it could just be they're a placeholder for whatever that lesson is or wound that needs to heal. How you treat that ex in the dream is something you want to pay attention to because it shows your like how much you've grown in that particular timeline or that particular state that you were with that person. Oftentimes people represent timelines that they were a part of. And that's how you know which wound or which lesson or something that you're outgrowing. That's why I say like high school, you're outgrowing something from like childhood. When you're there with your mom or your grandma or something, these are old. Those are ancestral patterns. That is like the maternal line. When it's like your father or a father representative, that's your paternal line, right? You see how it works like that. High school people, that timeline. Exes, it's like a heart chakra reboot type of deal. And then if you're talking about like seeing things that are happening that, like I've had dreams where my old work people, like an old boss was there, but she didn't recognize me, right? It's because I've outgrown that job. I've outgrown that timeline. I'm in a different one now, which is obvious. I'm doing something else. I'm literally doing this podcast. I have my own business. So it's like, those all represent that. And when you bring a vehicle or like weather into it, that's like the chaos part of it. That's like when you're in a car, you're moving forward. You're driving, which means you're driving away from something and towards something. When you're in a plane, you're flying away from something or you're flying towards something. When it crashes, it's something that needed to happen. It's like the Tower card in tarot, right? And when that happens, it hasn't stabilized yet. Your next dream might be something else, like you in a house or something. And that is you're moving on from that directional timeline that you were a part of. It's all, if you start tracking your dreams like yours truly has, and I mean, I have tracked them religiously, especially this year. I mean, almost every time I've had a dream, I've tracked it. And I've been able to watch the growth and the trajectory of even just my dreams, like what I'm dreaming about, what I'm actually, like what waves I'm collapsing, if we're going to talk scientific quantum physics terms, and how weird they are, how I dream about weird famous people sometimes, and animals. And the one I had last night was super weird. So like, you just don't know. But once you start putting it on quote unquote paper, you can start to look at the patterns of these. You can start to figure out what your dreams are trying to tell you. Because I would guess and say that all of us do work in our dreams. We're all going to the astral realm to get rid of old contracts, old wounds, ancestral stuff. Like that's part of the deal of being an infinite being. We come to Earth to be able to live these lives and have these emotions, good or bad. And then in our dreams, we work also. We do work for our ancestors. And some of us, the lucky some of us, have collectives that we represent. So we're not just doing the work for ourselves, we're doing it for everybody else. And if you believe that we are all one, that our energy is actually one, then anytime anyone does any work in the astral realm, they're helping every single person who has a soul here. If this interests you, I have a TikTok, earthdecoded.fm_. And if you want to know what your energy is telling you today, I've got a free quiz on my website, earthdecoded.com. Until next time, peace and love to you all.